obviously, big war going on, Russia invading Ukraine, and Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. There's a quote here. I do not want my picture in your office. The president is not an icon, an idol, or a portrait. Hang your kids' photos instead and look at them each time you're making a decision, which is something I think every politician, it's a great piece of advice for anybody who's a leader at all. There's a lot of reasons why somebody would want to be a leader. One, because they're passionate about being a leader and care very much about the people that they are leading. Then there are the people who like to feed their ego and like to be in power because they like to be in charge. They like to have control. They like to be idolized. They like to be famous. Big issue with fame and people wanting to be famous for not having done anything, especially. It's a very crazy time we're living in, where just being a person on social media could gain you enough popularity to be rich. And that is something that, at least from this piece, whether this is propaganda, who knows? It could be, could easily be. This isn't a video of him saying it, and who knows if he even said it in English, right? Then you got to trust whoever's translating it. So yeah, propaganda. Is propaganda out there? Yeah, especially since we're talking about Russia. Not that he's from Russia, but just Russia's involved. Or even America. Propaganda is everywhere. We are like inundated with propaganda constantly. It has never gone away. It never will go away. It's a form of control and gaining control, and it's everywhere. But it's super easy nowadays to see who listens to Russian propaganda, because there are a ton of Putin fanboys, not only in Russia or other places in the world, but specifically in America. And I knew there were Putin simps way before even Trump was president, back when Barack Obama was still the president. I remember having on my podcast dudes that were just like huge fanboys of Putin. And I don't think they were fanboys ironically. But that was just, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't give a shit. You know, when you're podcasting a decade ago, you're kind of just doing it to talking to all kinds of different people. And, you know, not everybody's so outspokenly fanboyish, but now more than ever, you can tell who is listening and following Russian propaganda with those that are like super pro-Putin. Because if you know anything about him, he's not a good dude. He's not like a democratically elected leader. He's a guy that is surprisingly not assassinated Zelensky yet, but I'm sure that there's been attempts. He's very much cut from the same cloth as a Donald Trump, which is another guy, just the same playbook. Both of which I'm sure they share the concentric circles of their fan base is pretty solidly. There's a lot of overlap between those guys, especially, you know, just wanting to be famous, wanting to be idolized. Like nobody wants to be idolized more than Trump and Putin. So it's good to, you know, whether this is a true statement from Zelensky or not, I'm going to take it as true. But even if it's not, it's great advice. You know, politicians should definitely make choices while looking at pictures of their family versus checking out their bank statements, which especially in America, like, you know, the wealthy get what they want because the politicians get paid. And as long as they are funded by, they're going to vote and govern based on the signature for their they get of their paychecks, which isn't, you know, a great path, a great way to have a country that cares about the average human being. Like the citizens that make up that place have zero voice when giant corporations are buying off politicians. And we have like egomaniacs like Trump, just who's gotten away with everything his entire life, been unsuccessful in every way. Is somebody that you would never ever, like, you would know instantly if this quote was attributed to Donald Trump, because he would never say that. Just like anytime he talks about his family, half of the time it's about how fuckable they are. Like, he's not a guy with much humility. So either way, whether Zelensky likes it or not, just being a good example of what a politician should be, it tends to raise your star, raise your popularity amongst people anyway. So whether he's trying to or not, it's going to happen. But we'll see. It's this whole situation is illuminating a lot of things. You're seeing a lot of racial bias when it comes to who people are sympathetic for which refugees they're sympathetic for versus which ones they demonize. And it's, as so many things are, as so many events of the past 5 years, it's really illuminated quite clearly all of the issues that are going on and how insanely different the ideals are for the people that are really ruining the country. But anyway, hopefully this will stop soon. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the details are. But hopefully there can be something where we can shut this shit down before it escalates to World War III. I don't think it will. I think nuclear fallout is probably far more likely. Sadly. I don't know. What can you do? What can you do? It's like there's so many things in this world that are completely out of your control. And as far as what can happen with the situations going on with these insane military people who have insane amounts of like artillery and like the capability to end humanity, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's as ridiculous as the fact that on an individual scale in this country, everybody's allowed to own a device that makes death effortless. Like, it makes babies capable of murder in ways that should not be. And so many people just like are blind to seeing the issue. But on a giant, on a macro scale, on a global scale, the fact that like Russia, just the fact that a bunch of countries have nuclear weapons, including the United States. I mean, we are not far off from being one of those crazy countries. We were for 4 years. We had an insane person who tried to overthrow an election for 4 years. We saw the insanity on like a minute by minute basis on all social media platforms. The craziness that was the United States. So it's like, yeah, humanity can be, it's like, sure, there's nukes potentially. The global warming is just floods everywhere, fires everywhere, just devastation constantly, viruses, like so many things are out to get us. Like the likelihood of survival for humans has dropped significantly over the past few years. Like exponentially, things have gotten worse fairly recently. And I'm not hopeful. Like, the thing that every conspiracy theorist believes is like this like ability to be ultra organized and for everything to work out perfectly for this crazy plan to manifest itself or to have manifested itself. Like the amount of like accurate, precise organization that has to happen for a lot of those things to be considered to be like plausible. Like that's a level that doesn't I know, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I know for most conspiracies that the organization and cooperation of humans doesn't exist at a level that would require humanity to do the right things to reverse stuff. I just don't have faith in that being a possibility whatsoever based on the reality I'm living right now. The amount of organization and cooperation that would need to have. And everybody's been like, oh, if aliens invaded, we would all join together. It's like, no, we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't. There has been no sign that a tragedy is going to bring us together. Like, even if we were invaded by Russia, there is a large percentage, a large enough percentage of United States citizens that would be on the side of Russia. They would be happy Russia came here. Like, that's a reality we're living in. So to think that we're all going to come together to solve all of the, I mean, we've seen it during the pandemic, just plain as day. Just a huge population of this country does not give a fuck about other people. We saw it during the protests of George Floyd versus the protests of these right-wingers who, you know, I mean, during the Capitol riots, you saw cops escorting people down the stairs, you know, like they're full service, you know, concierge. But then for Black Lives Matter and protesting police brutality, we're seeing militarized police stations across the country just do things that are war crimes. Killing people, maiming people, gassing people, disappearing people, just taking people off the streets, throwing into our unmarked vans. Like it's plain, like all these things are being illuminated plain as day. And same thing with the, you know, it's effortless to see who believes in Russian propaganda. It's just all of the people that's like, Russian propaganda is there for you to love Putin, to worship Putin. So you can see it. There's no way we would all come together. Humanity is, people give humans way too much credit. Specifically, conspiracy theorists. Like, conspiracy theorists give like people way too much credit.